We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis in Meseches Pesachim. This is Pesachim Daf 33b. Rav Huna Breid Rav Yoshua now is bringing a different source as to why if you separate Trumas Chametz on Pesach, it's not going to be good. Amar, he says, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Rashis, when it talks about separating Truma, it calls it Rashis. Sheshireha Nikarin Li Yisrael. That which you leave over has to be recognizable, meaning Yadstazu She'ein Shireh Nikarin. If you separate Truma when it's Chametz, the leftover is not Nikar. Now, what they mean by not nikar is it's not going to be allowed to be eaten. The whole idea is you have to separate truma in a way where that which is left over, that which is no longer tevel, can now be eaten. But in this case, if it's all chametz, you're going to separate the truma, and that which is left over, it couldn't be eaten before because it was tevel, and it can't be eaten now because it's chametz on Pesach, so therefore the truma is not chal at all. Yosef Rav Acha bar Rav Avya Kamei de Rav Chisda. Rav Acha bar Rav Avya was sitting in front of Rav Chisda. V'Yosef v'Omar Mishmei de Rav Yochanan, and he was sitting and he was saying in the name of Rav Yochanan as follows: Anovim shenitmu. If you have grapes that become tamei, dorchan pachos mikabetza. What you can do is you can crush them up so that they're less than the size of a kabetza, less than the size of an egg. V'yenon kosher l'nesachim, and then the wine that comes out of those grapes is going to be kosher for pouring by the mizbeach in the Beis HaMikdash, meaning that wine is not going to be tamei, because since the grapes are less than a kabetza, the halacha is food that is less than a kabetza cannot transmit tumah to the wine, so the wine is not going to be tamei. Alma, we see from this statement, kasavar, that he holds, mashkin mifkad pekidi, the liquid that's in the grapes is considered contained almost as if you would say it was like inside of a kli. It's not absorbed, it's not part of the grape, it doesn't become tamei just because the grape is tamei, but it's it's contained within the grape. La'emas kametami, so when is the liquid, when is the wine going to become tamei, at least in theory? L'chisachidlu, after you squeeze it out. L'chisachidlu lese l'shiure, but after you squeeze it out already, so the grapes themselves are not a kabetza, which is not large enough to transmit tumah. So the Gemara says, Ihachi, if so, if that's the logic, kabetza nami, the same should be true if it was exactly a kabetza. You shouldn't have to crush it up to be less than a kabetza. Even at exactly a kabetza, the moment a drop of wine would come out, the food would be less than a kabetza. Ta'atanan, because we learned in a Mishnah, tamei meis shesachat zeisim v'anovim, if you have someone who's tamei meis who's squeezing olives or grapes, kabetza mechuvenes, and they're exactly the size of a kabetza, tahorin, it's going to be tar. So why over here does it have to be less than a kabetza? Let it be a kabetza. So the Gemara says, no, hasam over there, diavid. It's just b'diavid. After the fact, we're saying if it's a kabetza, it's okay. Hacha lechatchila, but here we want to say, allow you to do this even lechatchila for the purposes of nesachim. Gezeira dilmasi lemevad yosem mikabetza. So we don't want to allow you to do it when it's exactly a kabetza, because then we're afraid already you might do it when it's more than a kabetza, which is obviously going to be a problem because the wine's going to be tamei. So lechatchila, we're only going to allow it if the grapes are smaller than the size of an egg. Amar le Rav Chisda said to him, Man sayis lach Rav Yochanan Rabba. Who's going to listen to you and Rav Yochanan your Rebbe? V'chi tumah shebahen lahechan halcha. Where did the tumah that was there disappear to? Originally these grapes are tamei. Now you make them a little smaller and squeeze out some wine. Where did the tumah disappear to? How did the tumah leave? Alma, you see from this statement that Rav Chisda made, kasavar, that Rav Chisda holds, mashkin mivla bli, that the liquid within the grapes is actually considered absorbed in the grapes, it's part and parcel of the grapes, v'kevan de itmule ochle itmule mashkin, and the moment the grapes become tamei, the wine inside is also tamei all along. It's not like you're going to squeeze out the wine and it's a separate item that needs to be makavel tumah. It was tamei when the grapes were tamei. That seems to be what Rav Chisda holds. So Amar Lei, so he said back to him, V'yat lotis bro, the mashkin mifkad pekidi, do you not agree with me that the liquid is really contained within the grape? I'll bring you a proof from another Mishnah. V'atanan, we learned in a Mishnah, Tamei meis shesachat zeisim v'anovim mechuvenes kabetza. It says that if you have a tamei meis that squeezes olives or grapes that are exactly a kabetza, tahorin, that wine is considered pure. So why is the wine pure? If you say it's because the wine is contained within the grape and it wasn't tamei originally, even though the grape was, misham hachi tar, and then it makes sense why it's tar, because the wine has to receive the tumah from the grape, and by the time the wine gets out, the grape is less than a kabetza, can't transmit tumah. But if you say that the wine is absorbed within the grape, amai tahorin, why should it be pure? It should be tamei along with the grape, or in the case of the olives, along with the olive. So Amar Lei, so he said back to him, Hacha b'may askinon. Here in this Mishnah that you just quoted, what are we talking about? Ba'anovim shelo huchshur. We're talking about anovim that never touched any liquid, so they were never prepared to be makabel tumah. So they really couldn't be makabel tumah at all. Liemas miskashri. And at what moment are they going to be prepared to be makabel tumah? When this tamei mace is squeezing them, when will they become tamei? L'chisachilu. They're only going to become tamei at the moment that you squeeze, because then the liquid touches the outer surface of the grape, and now the grape is ready to be makabel tumah. And at that moment, kisachilu, when he squeezes out some of the wine, or in the case of the olives, some of the oil, Batzer lehu shiura. By that time, they're too small. They're less than a kibetza. They can't transmit tumah to the wine or to the oil. So really, what he's answering is that really it is mivla bli, but it was never prepared to be makabel tumah. So therefore, in this particular case, in this Mishnah, the grapes and the olives are not tameh until some of the wine comes out, and at that point already, it's too late for it to transmit tumah to any wine that is that's coming out. Dilo te mahachi, because if you don't say this, hadatanya, that which we learned in a brisa, halamazeh doma, the brisa says, what is this comparable to? L'trumas tusin va'anovim, it's comparable to truma of berries or grapes, shenitma, that they become tameh. She'ein lo ba lo heter achila v'lo heter hasaka. The brisa was saying when it comes to tusim v'anovim that are tamei, so if you have truma of tusim and anovim, that's tamei, you can't do anything with it, you can't eat it, you can't burn it, you can do nothing with it. So now he says, 1 second, ha'eter achila nami yisbei. According to you, if what you are saying is correct, that it's mifkad pekide, you actually could eat. If you have truma, let's say you have trumas tusim and anovim that's tamei, you actually could even eat from it. Di boy darchlu pachas mikabetza. So all you need to do is crush it up less than a kabetza, and then you squeeze out the wine, or you squeeze out whatever liquid is there, whatever juice, and it's not going to be a problem. In other words, he says to him, if you hold that the mashke is mifkad pekide, that the mashke is contained within the fruit, and it's not tamei automatically, why does the brisa say you cannot eat from truma of tusim and anovim that's tamei? Of course you could eat. Just get it to be smaller than a kabetza, take out the liquid won't become tamei, and everything's going to be fine. So how do you explain that brisa? So Amar Rava, so Rava says, you know how you explain that brisa if you hold that the liquid is mifkad pekidi. You know how you explain that brisa. Gezeira dil ma'asi behu lidei takal. The brisa just means you're right. Of course you're able to squeeze out the liquid and it's not going to be tamei. But we have a decree, we have a gezeira. Maybe you'll accidentally, when you're squeezing it out, you'll forget, and you'll end up coming to a stumbling block. You'll end up eating the food itself, and of course that you can't do because it is tamei. Abaye said to Ravo, are we really afraid of takala? Are we really afraid of this kind of a stumbling block? Vatani, we learned in a different brisa, Madlikin bepasu v'shemen shel truma shenitmes. You're allowed to light a fire with bread or with oil of truma that became tamei. So in that particular situation, why aren't we worried you might accidentally eat from the pas or from the shemen? We should be worried about a takala. So Amar Lei, so he said back to him, in that case we're not worried. Pas zorik le bein ha'etzim. In the case of the bread, you're throwing it among the wood. So since you're throwing it among the wood, you're not going to eat it. It's disgusting. Shemen shel truma rami le b'chlimos. In the case of the oil of truma, you're putting it in a disgusting kli. So in those particular cases, we're not worried about takala. But in general, we are worried about takana. Gufa, going back to that case itself, madlikin bepasu v'shemen shel truma shenitmes. Again, you're allowed to light a fire with bread or with oil of truma that's tamei. Abaya Omar Mishmei Dechizkiya v'Rava Omar Devei Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Marasa Amar Rav Huna. Abaya says in the name of Chizkiya, Rava says in the name of the yeshiva of Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Marasa, in the name of Rav Huna, Lo Shanu El Pas. This is only true by bread. Avol Chiti, but when it comes to wheat, lo, then it's not allowed. Shema Yavo B'Henli De Takala. There we actually are worried that you might come to a takala. Rashi over here says El Pas Techizarik Le Memisa V'Sulo Asi Lemichle. When it comes to bread, you throw it off, so then it's disgusting. You're not going to come to eat it by mistake. Avol Chiti Nami Zarik Lu Lo Memisi. But if you had wheat, which even if you threw it, it wouldn't be disgusting, then you actually would have a problem. For Rabbi Yochanan Amar, but the Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan says, Afilu chita, even when it comes to wheat, we have a heter. Gemara says, V'amai nechosh dil ma'asi bohenli de takala. Why aren't we concerned about takala when it comes to the wheat? Because it's not disgusting, you might end up eating it. Gemara says, Kedamar Ravashi, as Ravashi says, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph.